Welcome to this video on simple and compound interest. In this video, we will be learning how to calculate compound interest. So all of you would know the formula for compound interest, that is, the amount when calculating compound interest is principal into 1 plus r by 100 to the power of n. Now one must recognize and one must remember here what is this r. Usually the rate in questions can be given as rate percent per annum. But the rate that we fit in or plug in this formula is rate for the period of compounding. Please remember this. ये rate जो है period of compounding का rate है. मतलब if you compound every 6 months, then you will have to calculate this value of r for 6 months. मतलब अगर आपकी कंपाउंडिंग हर 6 महीने में होती है तो ये रेट आपको 6 महीने का कैलकुलेट किया करना पड़ेगा. Even if the rate given is for per annum or rate given is for 1 year, you will have to convert that into rate for 6 months. So this rate is not rate per annum, not necessarily rate per annum. This rate is for period of compounding. This is something which you need to recognize and remember very well. And similarly, n is the number of periods. Period could be 1 year, could be less than 1 year, could be more than 1 year, depends. But say the period of compounding is 4 months. Let us say the period of compounding is 4 months. And the total time of loan is, let's say, 1 year. 1 year and, okay, 1 year. Then the number of periods will be 1 year has 12 months. So we need to calculate how many 4-month periods are there in 1 year. So for that, 12 months divided by 4, you will get 3 periods. So please remember that although this formula is known to you, you need to understand that this r is the rate for period of compounding and this n refers to number of periods. Another thing that you need to remember is this formula gives you the amount. So amount is always equal to principal plus interest. So the interest of that period will be calculated by subtracting the original principal from the amount. This is another thing which you need to keep in mind, please. So let us go to solving of questions based on calculation of compound interest. So find the compound interest on rupees 20,000 for 3 years at 10% per annum when compounded half yearly. Now we know that principal is 20,000. This is clear. We also know that the total time T is 3 years. And we have our formula, amount is equal to principal into 1 plus r by 100 to the power of n. So this rate is given per annum, and I just told you that you need to calculate this rate for the period of compounding. The rate given is per annum. So how will we calculate the rate for period of compounding? We'll simply do this calculation. So for 12 months, the rate is 10%. We need to calculate the rate for 6 months. So by direct variation rule, or we will simply say that the rate for 1 month is 10 by 12 and the rate for 6 months will be 10 by 12 into 6, which is equal to 5%. I hope you understood that very simple calculation for the rate for period of compounding. So now for r we will plug in 5. Now how about n? So because this is a period of 3 years, whereas since the amount is compounded half yearly, what we need to do is we need to see how many 6-month periods are there in 3 years. 3 years means 12 into 3 months divided by 6. So 6 twos are 12. So the time period, the number of periods is equal to 6. So now we can go to the calculation of amount. Amount is equal to 20,000 multiplied by 1 plus 5 by 100 to the power of 6. And how do you calculate that? So that gives us 20,000 into, this is nothing but 1.05 to the power of 6. And if you multiply this, you will get rupees 26,801 rupees. But this is still not the compound interest. The compound interest is nothing but amount minus principal. So 26,801 minus 20,000, which is equal to 6,801 rupee as compound interest. Let us look at another question. Find the compound interest on 10,000 rupees for 1 year and 8 months at 12% per annum when compounded every 4 months. Now this is clearly the principal, rupees 10,000. And 1 year and 8 months is the total time. This is not the period of compounding, it is the total time. 12% is rate given per annum and period of compounding is 4 months. Now this information is very, very important. Why? Because this will tell us how many periods are there in the given time, total time, and this will also tell you what is the rate for this period of compounding. So let us first do that. So 12% is the rate for 12 months. So which means 1% will be the rate for 1 month, and for 4 months the rate will be 1 into 4, that is 4%. This is the first calculation of rate that you should have done. The second thing that you need to know is how many total periods are there. The value of n in our formula, A is equal to P into 1 plus R by 100 to the power of n. We need to calculate this value of n as well. So your n refers to the number of periods. n मतलब number of 4-month periods. 4 महीने के कितने periods हैं हमारे 1 year और 8 months में. So to calculate that, let us say there are n periods. So n into 4 months is equal to total time. अब total time आपको 1 year और 8 months दिया है. 1 year is 12 months plus 8 months. So if you want to calculate the total time in months, it is equal to 20 months. So n is equal to 20 by 4, that is 5. So the time number of periods is 5. All we need to do now is substitute the value in the given formula. 1 plus 4 by 100 to the power of 5. This is nothing but 10,000 into 1.04 to the power of 5. And if you calculate that, you will get 12,166.5 rupees. And hence your compound interest, which is equal to amount minus principal, is 12,166.5 minus 10,000 rupees, which is rupees 2,166.5. I hope you have understood this. The most important point here is the calculation of the rate for your period of compounding and the number of periods. Let us look at another question. A sum of 2,000 was lent at CI at 20% per annum for a period of 2 years and 4 months. What is the compound interest? Now there are two things here. Number one, the period of compounding is not mentioned. Period of compounding not mentioned. What does it mean for you? It means your period of compounding can be taken as 1 year. So therefore period of compounding is equal to 1 year. So which means the value of R that we will substitute in the formula is 20%. But there is another factor that you need to keep into mind. In this case, your total time is not an exact multiple of period of compounding. Your total time is not an exact multiple of period of compounding. So how do you account for that? Because if your total time is not exact multiple of period of compounding, it implies that you will have to make some adjustment at the end of 2 years. Because the total time is 2 years and 4 months. So I can calculate the amount at the end of 2 years. And once I calculate the amount at the end of 2 years, after 2 years, for this final 4 month period, the amount calculated at the end of 2 years, let us call it A subscript to A2. After 2 years, A2 will be the principal for next 4 months. That is the whole principle of compound interest. That you always add the interest back to the principal after every period equal to the period of compounding. So at the end of 1 year, you will add the compound interest, and at the end of the second year also you will add the compound interest, and you will get this amount A2. And this A2 will be the principal for the next 4 months. And you need to know what will be the interest for these 4 months. So since this 20% is given per annum, we can calculate that interest for 12 months is 20%. So interest for 1 month will be 20 by 12. Interest for 4 months, and this 4 month is not the period of compounding, mind you. This 4 month is the final 4 months. So 20 by 12 into 4, 4 threes are, so we get 20 by 3%. Now once we arrive at this, we know that once we calculate the amount at the end of 2 years, on this amount for this entire period, we will charge an interest of 20 by 3%. And we will treat this period as one period only, because since 20% is for 1 year, for 4 months we've already calculated the interest rate. So let us first calculate the value of A2. A2 is the amount at the end of 2 years. Principal into 1 plus R by 100 to the power of 2. And that is nothing but 2000 into 1 plus 20 by 100 to the power of 2, which is 2000 into 1.44. That is rupees 2880. This is the amount at the end of 2 years. Now the final amount will be principal after 2 years, that is A2, plus interest on A2 for 4 months. Interest on A2 for 4 months. So 2880 plus 2880 into, what is the interest for 4 months? It is 20 by 3%. So 20 by 3 into 100 and into 1. This will give you the final interest rate, or this will give you the final amount, I'm sorry. So this should be equal to 2880 into 20 upon 300. So 2880 into 1 by 15. So what does that become? It is equal to 192. And your final amount should be 3072 rupee. This is your final amount. So compound interest for this entire period is amount minus principal, 3072 minus 2000, which is equal to 1072 rupee. I hope this solution is clear. The only factor that needed to be taken into consideration is that in this case, the total time period is not an exact multiple of period of compounding. So you have to calculate the interest and the amount separately for the last 4 months. With this, we come to an end of this session on calculation of compound interest. That's all for now. Thank you very much.